Well, good morning, friends. Welcome back to the Morning Report. My name is Willie Lawson. And today I want to bring you into a moment that, in a single photograph, captured the cultural battle in America. It happened not in Washington or in New York, but in Virginia, where the gubernatorial races suddenly turned into a referendum on identity, faith, and the future of common sense. The image came from an Arlington school board protest. I keep telling you guys, man, school board that's where you got to start. A woman held up a sign directed at Lieutenant Governor Winsome Earle-Sears, who is now running for governor. Now, the sign read, and I'm going to show it to you later. The sign read, "Hey, Winsome, if trans can't share your bathroom, then blacks can't share my water fountain." I'll show you the sign. And I'll show you the sign a little bit later. Now, let's just stop there. The moment I saw the picture, I felt two things at once. I was angry, but I had clarity. Angry because of the comparison is terrible. The comparison is awful. Clarity because it showed exactly where the cultural and political line is being drawn right now. It's hard to deny. It's hard to not see it. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. The design wasn't just wrong-headed. It was an insult to history. It took the brutal, bloody legacy of Jim Crow and the segregation that came with it and tried to slap it on a debate about whether men should be allowed to use women's bathrooms or boys should be allowed to be in girls' locker rooms. It trivialized the suffering of millions of Black Americans who lived under the legalized segregation and hatred of Jim Crow. It mocked the memory of all those who fought and died to tear down white-only water fountains. Where I live, white-only beaches, right? And it attempted to weaponize race in the service of radical gender ideology. That's the left's playbook. It really is. It's on full display there. If you can't win an argument, cry racism. When you can't persuade voters, change the subject to civil rights. When you can't defend the policy, attack an opponent's character. But this time, it all backfired. The photo spread fast. You've probably already seen it. And instead of applause, the response was outrage, not just from conservatives, but even a lot of Democrats. The sign didn't just fail, it exposed. It exposed how reckless, desperate, and morally shallow, morally bankrupt the activist left has become. So today we're going to unpack this. Not just the sign itself, but the political earthquake it set off. We're going to look at how Democrats initially reacted and why the backlash grew, and how this ties into a larger Virginia race, and how an unlikely donor, the co-founder of Black Entertainment Television, stepped in to back Winsome Sears when she was attacked. This isn't just a Virginia story. This is the American story in 2025. When that sign went up, it landed like a grenade. And here's the part that surprised a lot of people. Democrats didn't defend it. They didn't try to spin it. They ran away from it, which is what they typically do. Abigail Spanberger, the Democratic nominee for governor, wasted absolutely no time. She called it repulsive and racist. And now, let's be honest, Spanberger never been shy about using the race card herself. She's attacked conservatives on everything from voter ID to school choice, but even she recognized that this was political poison. Senator Hashmi, a high-profile Virginia Democrat, also condemned the sign, calling it Jim Crow era ugliness. Others piled on. Local Democrat leaders distanced themselves from it, denouncing the protester and urging activists to stay focused on real issues. Why? Because they know that most Virginians will not stomach that comparison. Virginians know the difference between separate water fountains under segregation and policies designed to keep bathrooms safe for women and girls. They know that twisting history cheapens it. And they know that when you start equating every policy disagreement with 1950s Alabama, you lose credibility. For Democrats, the calculation was simple. Let the sign stand, and you hand Winsome a political gift. But let's not kid ourselves. This condemnation wasn't driven by conviction. It was driven by optics. These same Democrats have spent years normalizing the idea that opposition to progressive social policy equals bigotry. They've trained their voters to believe disagreement is hate. The sign was just the cartoonish end of that logic. The only reason they rejected it is because it was too loud, too obvious, and too easy to photograph. And they knew that it would not land well. This was more about strategy than anything. Make no mistake, if the sign had been subtler, if it had said the same thing in a slicker way, Democrats would have nodded along. That's what makes this moment important, because it shows the line. Even they have limits. Even they have to admit when some tactics cross into absurdity. Okay, so why does this matter beyond one bad sign? Because it reveals a strategy at work. The left has one go-to move: frame every debate in some sort of moral terms. And the sharpest moral weapon is American history on the civil rights movement. The images of Black children walking into schools under guard in Democrat-run states. But anyway, the stories of segregated buses, the marches, the fire hoses turned on people who were in Democratic-run states, the dogs. Those images carry some deep moral weight. So what do activists do? They hijack the weight. They slap it onto whatever cause they're pushing in the moment. Gay marriage, it's a new civil rights movement. Climate change, it's a new civil rights movement. Gender identity, it's a new civil rights movement. And if you oppose them, congratulations, you're Bull freaking Connor. You're George Wallace, Democrat. You're the villain in their story. And that's what the sign was trying to do. It was saying that if you think bathrooms should reflect biological sex, then you're the same as racists who banned Black kids from white schools. And that's not just false, it's stupid, it's ridiculous, outrageous. But here's the thing. A lot of Americans are catching on. If you think bathrooms should reflect, Americans are catching on. People are starting to see the difference. They know that it's not the same. And in Virginia, that awareness is dangerous for Democrats because it strips their moral cover. If voters stop buying the everything is racism line, Democrats lose one of their most powerful weapons. That's why Spanberger and company ran away from the sign so quickly. They knew that it risked exposing the game. Now, here's where it gets kind of interesting. While Democrats scrambled to distance themselves, someone else made a move that turned heads. Ralph Tony Person, the co-founder of BET, donated to Winsome Earle's campaign. And this was no small thing. In the world of politics, donations aren't just money. They're basically endorsements. They're signals. They say this: I stand with you. Person's decision to back Winsome was a rebuke to the smear. It was a way of saying this: I'm not buying this race baiting nonsense. I see who you are and I support you. Now, remember, Winsome Sears isn't just an Indian candidate. She's a conservative Black woman, a Marine veteran, a leader who embodies everything the left claims to celebrate. But because she's conservative, because she stands for faith, family, and common sense, she gets attacked harder than anyone. The left can't stand her. And when that bathroom sign went up, it wasn't just aimed at her policy, it was aimed at her identity. It was trying to paint her as a traitor to her race. Anyway, Person's donation cut through all the noise. It said, you don't own Black voices. You don't get to decide who counts as authentic. Winsome stands on her own. And that matters because Democrats have built their coalition on the assumption that they own the Black vote. That assumption is crumbling. Every time a leader like Winsome rises, every time a donor like Person steps across the line, that monopoly weakens. That's why this moment in Virginia matters beyond Virginia. It's not just about one race, it's about breaking the narrative that Black Americans must think one way or speak one way. All right, let's zoom out a little bit. Why does this governor's race matter so much? Virginia has always been a bellwether state. It's purple, like Florida used to be. It swings. It's just one of those swing states, right? And it often predicts the national currents. Winsome Sears isn't just running for governor. She's running as a symbol of resistance to the cultural takeover. She's saying parents matter, women matter, faith matters, common sense matters, and the left cannot stand it. This bathroom time fiasco isn't an isolated event. It's part of a larger culture war playing out on school boards and legislatures and every part of public life. The activists pushing radical gender ideology want total victory. They want bathrooms, locker rooms, sports teams, curricula, the language itself. Anyone who resists must be painted as a bigot. But here's the danger for them. Virginians aren't radicals. They're moderates. Parents, workers, people who just want stability. Most people just want to live their lives and go about their day. When they see activists comparing bathroom to water fountains, they roll their eyes because they know the difference. We all know the difference. And that's why Democrats panicked. They saw the backlash coming. So if Winsome Sears wins, it's not just a personal victory. It's a statement. You can't bully us with false history. You can't shame us with cheap cards. You can't own the narrative forever. That's the line. That's the battle. And Virginia is the front line. One of the most telling parts of this entire controversy is how it unmasks the left strategy. For years, Democrats have thrived on keeping minority communities fearful of Republicans, fearful of conservatives, fearful of change. The tactic is simple: convince people that the other side is out to get them. that they're racist, sexist, xenophobic, homophobic, blah, 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 phobic. But here's the danger of that strategy when you stretch it too far. People stop believing it. When you say racist about everything, eventually the word loses power. When you call every conservative policy Jim Crow 2.0, eventually voters start rolling their eyes, and that's exactly what's happening in Virginia. And I'll tell you what, happening all over the country. That bathroom sign didn't just come across, didn't cross the line. It showed the playbook of the crudest form. It screamed, if you disagree with us, you're a segregationist. Yeah, and this has been something that the left has been doing here, especially in the Trump era, of calling Black conservatives white supremacists. Now, you know that doesn't make any sense, right? And so does everybody else. So instead of persuading voters, it backfires if it woke people up to the manipulation. And here's the thing. Most voters in Virginia know the civil rights movement was about dignity, equality, and basic humanity. They know the bathroom divided is about biological sex. It are not the same bathrooms divided by race. They know that. They know letting girls have privacy in their locker room is not the same as telling Rosa Parks to move to the back of the bus. They know that. And so does everybody else. The more activists push that false equivalence, the more they erode their own credibility. And once credibility is gone, their power will follow. That's what scares Democrats the most. All right. Let's talk about Winsome Earle-Sears herself, because she's not just any candidate. She's a lightning rod. And that's exactly why the attacks are so vicious. And some of y'all who watch this are in Virginia and can vote in the Virginia gubernatorial election, and you should. Y'all already know that Winsome Sears is the lieutenant governor. You already know that. You've already elected her lieutenant governor. And Sears is the first Black woman to serve as lieutenant governor. You know that she's a Marine veteran. She's an immigrant. She's conservative. And you know that she's unapologetic about her faith. And she's not ashamed or afraid to say things that make the left squirm a little. In other words, she's everything the left claims to celebrate: diversity, representation, breaking barriers, except that she doesn't follow their script. And that makes her more dangerous to them than any white male Republican can ever be. When a white Republican argues for parental rights, the left can yell, racist. When Winsome Sears argues for parental rights, that smear doesn't really stick because it's stupid. When a white Republican argues for protecting women's spaces, the left yells, sexist. When Winsome Sears argues for it, they don't know what to say. That's why the attacks on her identity are so sharp. The bathroom sign wasn't just about policy. It was an attempt to strip her of her authenticity, to say, you don't count as a Black woman unless you toe the progressive line. A lot of us, Black conservatives, have heard that for a long time. Ever since I've been doing this, ever since I guess had my coming out party in 2008, been hearing just that somehow I don't count as a voice, and I definitely don't count as a Black voice. But the more they attack, the stronger she looks. She doesn't crumble under pressure. She doesn't apologize for who she is. And that's why the voters respect her. All right, folks, politics isn't just about speeches and rallies. It's about money. I've said this a million times to you. The lifeblood of campaigns is money. And when the money runs out, campaigns die. I know I've had two. When you look at Herman Cain's campaign, He didn't die because he was wrong. He didn't die because there was some supposed scandal. He died because the money ran out. Ben Carson, not because Ben Carson was boring, not because Ben Carson was easily the smartest person to run for president in our lifetime. The money ran out. That's why. That's why Ralph Tony Person's donation to Winsome Sears is so important. This isn't just any donor. This is the co-founder of Black Entertainment Television, a cultural icon, a businessman with credibility, a voice that carries weight. His decision to support Winsome wasn't just about dollars, it's about legacy. Person could have stayed out, he could have stayed quiet. He could have watched the attacks and shrugged, but instead he stepped into the spotlight and said, I stand with her. That's powerful. It also breaks the narrative. For decades, Democrats have relied on Black cultural leaders to reinforce their monopoly on the Black vote. But when a man like Person crosses the line and supports a conservative, it cracks that monopoly. It tells Black voters, hey, listen, we have choices. You don't have to accept the same old party line. That's why Democrats fear donations like this more than any speech. Because money plus credibility brings influence. And the more donors like Person stepping up, the political landscape will shift. All right, let's zoom out a little further. This isn't about one race in Virginia. It's about the nation. It's about the national cultural battle. The left wants to redefine America's moral framework. They want to take every cause, climate change, gender identity, immigration, and wrap it up in the moral authority of the civil rights movement. They want to make disagreement impossible by equating the opposition with bigotry. But the Virginia bathroom sign shows that tactic has limits. You can only stretch history so far before it snaps back. And when it snaps back, the backlash is fierce. Voters are tired of being manipulated. They're tired of being told they're racist for wanting safe schools, or sexist for wanting fairness in sports, or hateful for wanting boundaries in bathrooms. They see through it. And once they see through it, the whole strategy crumbles. Virginia is a test case. If Winsome Sears can stand against the smears and win, it will send a shockwave through the country. It will show that voters are done with moral comparisons or false moral comparisons. It will show that courage, clarity, and truth still resonate. All right, before I close, let me tell you again about something simple that you can do to make a difference. Drink coffee with a purpose. Drink 7 Weeks coffee. Every bag you buy supports pregnancy centers across America. And 10%, a tithe of every purchase, goes directly to helping moms saving babies. It's not just coffee. That's mission. That's faith in action. I drink it myself. And I encourage you to join me. So go to 7weekscoffee.com, 7weekscoffee.com, 7weekscoffee.com. Order your bag and start your mornings with purpose. All right. So one of the lessons that we learned from this whole controversy is that courage is contagious. Think about it. Winsome Sears stood firm. She didn't bend. She didn't back down. She didn't let the smears define her. And because she stood firm, others followed. Democrats were forced to backpedal. Donors like Ralph Person were emboldened to step up. Voters saw a leader that they could respect. This is how cultural change happens. It doesn't start with everyone. It starts with someone. One person saying no. One leader refusing to bow. one community drawing the line. And that's what happened. Courage spreads. We need that courage now more than ever because the line isn't just in Virginia. It's everywhere in schools and workplaces and churches and politics. The line is being drawn. And each of us has to decide which side we're going to be on. Now, this Virginia sign was supposed to be a clever attack. Instead, it revealed everything. It revealed the desperation of the activist left. It revealed the limits their smear tactics. It revealed the courage of leaders like Winsome Sears. It revealed the power of allies willing to step up when the attacks come. But more than that, it revealed the moment we're in a country, in the moment we're in as a country. The line is being drawn. And the question is simple. Will you stand with truth or will you bow to lies? Will you protect children, our faith, our common sense, or will you let activists rewrite and shame us into silence? I believe that America still has the courage to stand. I believe Virginia will lead the way. I believe that leaders like Winsome Sears show us the path forward, unapologetic, unafraid, and unwilling to let race baiting or identity politics define us. That's where we are. That's the choice. And that's why this race in Virginia matters beyond Virginia. My name is Willie Lawson. This is the Morning Report. Until we see you again, go out there and learn something, love somebody, and for goodness sakes, y'all take care of yourself. We will see you when we see you. Bye bye now.